I think so. I really do. Again, I can't tell you if we're going to go through 69 in the next day, week, or 2 months. It wouldn't surprise me if we take it out, but it also wouldn't surprise me if we bounce between, 58 and 69,000
Mm-hmm.
until some of this buying gets digested, and then the next move up. It's really hard to say right now because there's just this almost like this runaway momentum in these ETFs. I mean, they've raised 7.5 billion of new capital, and it just keeps coming in. We have a big trading business. We execute trades for institutions, and all our salesmen traders screamed out and cheered. Listen, we are in a new phase of Bitcoin, right? You've just opened up the boomers to Bitcoin. And so boomers do Bitcoin, right? There are $48 trillion of kind of liquid wealth in the baby boomer generation, right? 95 trillion overall. And they're making an allocation. And so when we have, for the first time ever, anyone who wanted to buy Bitcoin can buy it, we're kind of at price discovery. And with price discovery, it's hard to see where things will go. In general, when you come 330% from a low to a 3-year high, you don't take it out on the first time. I can't find one trade where you go from 15,000 to 69,000 and go right through. And so we bounced off yesterday. But man, oh man, there is buying that's continuing. And so I think we're going to take out 69,000 fairly soon. And then who knows? Like I like to say 100,000 because it's a round number. But when you're in price discovery, you don't know where the buying stops. Like prices are set on the margin, and right now there are more buyers than sellers. Is this ETF because it's opened up this gigantic wealth channel to be able to buy Bitcoin very easily. And so you saw Rick Reeder mentioned filed a report that his $38 billion fund at BlackRock will be able to buy the ETF in his fund. And so small allocations of big funds is a lot of Bitcoin. And like, what are the macro stories? The Fed is going to cut rates at one point. But more importantly, we've had a banking crisis today. Again, every one of these stories plays into Bitcoin, right? The election more than anything, right? That we've got Donald Trump, who half the country see as deranged, and Joe Biden, who half the country see as way too old. Those are our choices. No one really has a lot of confidence that you're going to see fiscal prudence, right? We're adding, $1 trillion of debt in very short intervals to our budget deficit. And as long as the federal government is going to spend 25% of GDP on government and not 20 like we used to, Bitcoin's going to go higher. Like Bitcoin is a report card on fiscal prudency, and there's no fiscal prudency right now.
You're somewhat bullish, or pretty bullish forecast in jeopardy. What would have to happen?
I think two things would probably derail an equity move of 20% this year. Something even pushing the markets down. One would be if inflation reasserts itself in a way that the Fed has to reverse its action and become quite hawkish again. I think that would terrify markets. The second is if monetary policy is so restrictive now that we slip into a recession. I don't think we're losing that much economic momentum, but either would be negative for stocks. Sometime in the next 12, 18 months, Bitcoin can be over 150,000. But that's because, the backdrop for Bitcoin is so much more favorable today. We've got more visible demand from the spot ETF. And we know the supply dynamic is improving with the halving coming up, which is less than a month away. It does help that the Fed is becoming dovish. I mean, that's easier monetary policy. And I think from a regulatory perspective, we had so many hammers dropped in the last 12 months, really 18 months, that unless it's going to be worse over the next 2 years, Bitcoin's already faced sort of the peak of regulatory backlash.
Days, the minute it hit new high, it sold off almost $10,000 to 59, but it's back to 67 today. How long before it doubles again? I mean, could you see that in the near term, another doubling?
Near term, it's hard to know near term. Joe, I know our digital strategist, Sean Farrell, said that it's typical to consolidate after making a new high. So he thinks for the next 9 or 10 days, we're going to be maybe chopping around here. But we saw it with the spot Bitcoin ETF inflows, like, BlackRock seeing almost 800 million in inflows. So I think as long as there's strong spot demand and there aren't eager sellers, you do have a market that's out of balance, that there's too much demand for Bitcoin, not enough supply created through the block reward. If Bitcoin does well, it's actually bullish for stocks.
Did you notice the other day the Wall Street Journal, in the headline, it was describing the move in Bitcoin, and it said a new high for the currency. I had never seen that in the Wall Street Journal before. Usually, I don't know what you call it. I still don't know what to call it, really. But front page, it said currency. Is it a currency?
Yeah, I mean that's it. I missed that. That's a great term. It's certainly better than someone calling it sardine cans or tulip bubbles. But to me, it's
hey Tom. So just to put a fine point on this issue about the correlation with the markets, and how do you so you're saying it's correlated to the markets, and we have a market that's doing quite well, and as we said, it appears the economy is doing quite well. The idea that it would do very well in a bad economy, which is what a lot of people have been trying to suggest, I think, on this broadcast earlier today, is that right or wrong?
I think Bitcoin is a hedge against unsound money, and that's why when Joe talked about it as currency, that's how many people do view it, because Bitcoin has its own unit value and it's measured against dollars, and I think it's the same way people measure gold against dollars. So I think if there is an event, and we've seen it in Turkey or Venezuela, that when those currencies collapse, Bitcoin has been a way for people to preserve wealth. So I don't want to see that test sort of put in the U.S., but I think that's one reason people own Bitcoin.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And we have Mike Novogratz states that Bitcoin could pull back and then go higher. And remember, only thing we have to do is follow the Fed. We know the Fed is going to start shrinking starting at the end of this month, and it's going to continue. And it doesn't matter whether they're going to be cutting rates later on this year, because look at all the debt that's being accumulated. And we have so many countries getting off the United States dollar. Remember, guys, they can run this show all day as long as the dollar is the world reserve currency. But we know that's about to come to an end. And that's the reason why you see all the politicians, Biden, talking about cutting back the spending. We can no longer spend because now we're losing this world reserve currency title. And the fourth industrial revolution, it creates a level playing field. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And Mike Novogratz talks about the spot Bitcoin ETFs, and that's the reason why Bitcoin is moving higher. But guys, we know that's not true. We know it's all the Fed. Why? Because it's not just Bitcoin and Ethereum that's moving up. It's all the cryptos still moving up together. That means the central banks need to park their money somewhere until it's time to build the fourth industrial revolution. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And then we have Tom Lee on inflation. If inflation doesn't go anywhere, which we know is not, and the Fed doesn't start cutting ASAP, we're going into a recession. But guys, we're already in a Great Depression. We've already went past a recession. How do we know? Because now we have Maxine Waters talking about affordable homes. And guys, I did plenty of videos in the Patreon. Now they're talking about no more homeless. And we know who's going to benefit from this. This is going to be those migrants. They're going to get free housing. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, guys, this movie has been played before in history. So you bring millions of people inside the United States, give them free money and free housing. Where is their loyalty going to be at? That's right, the government. It's common sense. And they're going to do whatever you ask them to do. And then, guys, we have Steve Mnuchin back in the house, the greatest producer ever. We have New York Community Bank was in trouble after they finished bailing out SVB. So we know, guys, this is all part of a plan. I brought you all the FDIC videos Sean, this has been in the works for 10 years. These small and medium-sized banks cannot survive when you're talking about real-time liquidity. All the issues that we see that are going on are basically about liquidity. And we know when we look at every crisis going on in the globe, you can point to the central banks. But we know it's all part of the plan. We know all about the fourth industrial revolution. We're in a fragmented world. They have to break up this legacy market in order for the robots, algorithms, and drones to take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. Get that free money, but little do they know, that money is programmable, telling you what, when, when, and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it or poof, it's gone. And while you're in the metaverse, you're going to be downloaded. And we know if you can be downloaded, you can be deleted. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
But how do we get more homes built?
Well, in addition to the federal government playing its role and giving more money to help build affordable housing, I think that we've got to make sure that our locals understand exactly how to manage that money, exactly how to have permitting and licensing that is expedited in ways that does not increase the cost of housing. I think we're looking at making CDBG, the community development monies, available for the development of housing. Instead of using CDGB money for a lot of little different programs, we'd like to direct that toward housing. I have 3 big bills that we're talking about that we think could end homelessness forever. So we're on it. This is a top of our agenda, and we're not going to take a back seat on this. We're not going to stop.
More recently, when they did the Signature Bank deal last year, I followed it as well, which I think was a very attractive deal for the company, and particularly bringing the 2 franchises together. So at the end of January, the company announced some issues associated with cutting the dividend and increasing reserves. I reached out to the company and began a diligence process in case they wanted to increase capital. And it was really at the end of last week that we moved forward very quickly. So I like the franchise a lot. It's a top 20 bank in the U.S. with very attractive markets. It's got a great branch network. Unlike the banks that had problems last year, this business has 80% of their deposits are insured, so it's got a very stable deposit base. And the issue is really around perceived risks in the loans. And with putting $1 billion of capital into the balance sheet, it really strengthens the franchise. And whatever issues there are in the loans, we'll be able to work through. And
going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.